Is it on? Let me know. All right. I think it's working. I hope everyone can hear me. Levels look good. Are we on?
We're on.
All right, cool. So my name is Vashi Nedemansky. I was the director of photography, DP, and editor, and all the other stuff on this film, on The Seed, a 4K Unreal experimental sci-fi film. And I wanted to thank everyone for stopping by to actually take their time to either ask questions or make comments or, learn more about the process of both low budget filmmaking, Unreal Engine integration into short films, or just virtual productions in general. Quick overview of the project. It's a project that my friend Samson, who was lead actor, he came up with the script. I wrote the story in terms of trying to find practical locations out in the desert that looked great and that we wanted to explore and film and use. We didn't want to have, interior locations like houses or stuff. We want to make it more mystical and fit the story of the sci-fi post-apocalyptic, minimalist sci-fi. It's about a feeling, about a mood, about, setting an atmosphere and dropping the viewer into it. So that was the goal of it. It was myself as the cameraman, no sound, recorded on set. We had the two actors, Anne-Marie and Samson, in the short, and no gaffers, no camera crew. I ran the camera, no additional lights. Everything was natural lighting, except in the cave. We use an iPhone on the shots. When someone was on camera, the other actor was holding an iPhone up just to light their face, give them a little bit of bounce. Everything else was coming in from the top in the cave, all natural lighting. And then we proceeded to move forward with the Unreal portion of it. I worked with and hired Azra Alkin, my Unreal artist, who had just finished her fellowship at the Unreal Foundation, Unreal Fellowship. So she was trained, but we all need practical experiences. We need to implement what we learn in all these disciplines and try and apply it to a film. So I use Unreal Engine basically to augment and enhance the pre-existing short film that we already shot, but I knew we didn't have the effects. I knew we didn't have some of the bigger, vistas that we need to be fleshed out with the aliens and spaceships and all the other stuff. In the 9-minute film, just so you know, there were just over 2 minutes of footage that was created in Unreal. And so that was like 22% of the film. And we just tried to slide in shots to help tell the story, to make it seem bigger and bolder and make it pop and try and make it immersive, So that was our goal. And if we have questions, that's a quick little starting point.
We've got a lot of questions.
Okay. Cheers. Thanks for everyone for stopping by.
Cheers. We have a question from Megan Margaret Thomas on YouTube. She says, beautiful color work. Was that just the DP work you did, or was it color work in your NLE?
Both. I shot pretty flat. I wanted to capture as much latitude and as much information in the desert. It's obviously super bright, and I just had an ND filter, no bounce cards, no negative fill, no nothing. So I tried to frame the shots so that the sun was either behind us, so we had really nice exposure, and we try to keep everything flat as possible so we could grade it later. So I'll show another follow-up video where I will be able to show the raw footage and then the color grade itself. And Jason Baudak was my colorist, and we had big conversation before how we wanted it to look, the feel of it. The world was polluted. The aliens invaded. They fucked up the world. So we had to kind of imply that with the colors. So they were very vibrant. They were sickly sometimes. The blues and greens. It doesn't look natural, but it was to the story to be that exaggerated, really nice, vibrant colors. So that was a combination. But Jason did all the color grading. It was fantastic.
Absolutely. And we had this question from a couple of people, including Florin. He says, I know I'm going full technical on you,
That's okay.
but what cameras were used?
Oh, you'd be interested. So everyone's always talking about, you got to have an solid stuff. I shot this on a Samsung NX1, which is a 4K camera that was released about 6 years ago and then canceled about 4 years ago. So the one thing I liked about this Samsung NX1, it's a DSLR that captures 4K, but it has a 6.5K sensor that then converts that to 4K pixel for pixel. So it's basically the same size as an old red 6K sensor from a Helium, I think, or something from like 4 years ago. And it captured really nice, fine detail, but it wasn't overly sharp. So Samsung NX1 is the camera we used. And I actually used the kit lens, 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens that came with it. So that camera with the lens was $1,600, but I knew that I could use it to the benefit of this specific shoot because I could get the exposure and the detail I wanted without being overly sharp.
We had a great question on YouTube from Armando Ochoa. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He said, I'm a total noob here. How do you blend Unreal with your actual footage? That was so cool to see.
We have the BTS. I did 5 videos. I did a behind the scenes of 5 videos before we released the film, which is, I know is backwards, but I wanted to show the process as we were doing it. And there were 2 ways that we did this. We did one way where there were 16 Unreal shots in the film. There were more than half were completely Unreal, meaning we started in Unreal. We created the desert environment or the cave environment or the forest. That was built from scratch by Azra Alkin, our artist. And then she populated it with things that would match the actual physical production that we shot. So she had all the footage and she created all these shots. We had a 3D character of Samson in more shots than you probably caught. That the Samson character is actually a 3D character that was dropped into Unreal into that environment. All of that was exported as EXR files, which are huge 30 megabyte files, 4K. And then I took that into Premiere and DaVinci Resolve, edited that into the other footage. The other way we did it was we bought spaceships on the Unreal Engine market, and some aliens. We built them in Unreal so we could match the lighting of the practically shot footage in the desert. So if the light's coming this way, we put a spaceship in Unreal, match the lighting because you have complete control in Unreal to change the color, the light, the texture. And then we exported that and then we comped that in with After Effects and Nuke into the practically shot footage. So some of the shots were a combination of real footage and Unreal assets, which were 4 and 8K. So we could have gone as close as we wanted. But the one thing about this project and using Unreal was I wanted to show restraint and I wanted to be pre-planned. Everything was pre-planned in terms of I didn't want to just go willy-nilly and just start flying around and obviously give away the fact that you're in Unreal because you're in a drone or a helicopter and we had no budget. So we didn't want to do that. So I wanted to try and keep things subtle, matching the original footage, keep the tone going, keep a nice pace going. And to be honest, like this, to me, the story was almost like an hour and 45-minute sci-fi feature film. And this is the last 9 minutes of that film. So I wanted to pace it like a feature film, not just blast through it like a short to do that. Because you don't get any tone, you don't get any feeling. You have to set some kind of tone, and that's through the editing and pacing and rhythm. And I hope it was smooth enough and that you could follow the story and enjoyable enough to be immersed into the world.
Absolutely. We have quite a few more questions.
Sure.
We have a question from Patrick Neary. He asks, was that last shot in the forest entirely Unreal Engine?
The last shot, the 37-second shot, was completely Unreal. There was no real elements in it. And same thing, I planned it out to start on the fern, to pull up, to go across, to catch Samson in the background walking off in the distance, then pass through the trees. It was one continuous shot. That was the longest one. That was the hardest one. It almost crashed our systems. We used, I had a Dell 7920 workstation that was just tricked out. It was super powerful computer. And then obviously the NVIDIA RTX A6000 GPU, which has 48 gigabytes of RAM. And we pushed those to the limit on that shot because it was so much information, so many pixels, so many polygons and triangles and layers and textures, but that was all Unreal. And curious about that shot, I'm glad you pointed it out. I mapped it out to match a Technocrane 100, which is a huge crane they use in the feature films. It has a limit of 100 feet left to right or down and up. So what I mapped it out to be was to start low to the ground, go across, then go up and stop at 100 feet. So I was replicating an actual crane that's used in the film. So your brain would be like, that didn't feel too outrageous. Like I felt natural and realistic in a heavy camera. And I added a little camera shake to the move. So it wasn't just glass-like, because often those shots are not. I wanted to feel real, like you were there, but give it a limitation of 100 feet side to side and up and down. And I was really proud. Azra killed that shot. She did such a great shot. And it was, hopefully you enjoyed the last shot because that was a big one.
Absolutely. And we had
My chair is squeaking.
We had a question from shared from Instagram asking, how did you 3D scan your actor? That was a neat looking 3D scan of your actor.
Oh, that I reached out to several Unreal artists at the higher level in Los Angeles here, and I was quoted around or $5,000 to do something that matched our character, who had a very distinctive outfit, including this hat, which I'm wearing because it's a long night. This is my dad's hat, and I gave it to Samson for the show. And then he had his cowboy hat, cowboy shirt, denim shirt, khakis, and the handbag. So we planned that kind of outfit and then create the 3D character. So I was quoted like $5,000. I eventually went on Fiverr. I interacted with about 4 artists. I picked one called Unreal Queen, and now she's booked for like the next 5 months. You can't even get in to see her. But our final 3D character that was rigged for Unreal Engine, that had custom clothing that matched the actual actor's clothing. The price came in around $400 from her, and she did an amazing job. I gave her some great reviews, and now she said thank you, and she's slammed and doesn't have time to pick up new projects. But that was all, again, it was like a 4K image, and he could be put anywhere. And again, there's certain shots that he's far away, but I also shot practical shots where Samson was really far away as well. And then there were shots where we're close. There's a shot in the cave that is going through the darkness, and then Samson comes out in front and he looks down and he's in the cave. That was all Unreal shot. And that's one of my favorite shots because we got to use the power of controlling the camera, using a shallower depth of field, having him pass close to the camera, which is, a technique to show the depth of field, show that there's depth in the shot itself. And he's blurry when he's close, and then he gets sharper as he gets further away. So I tried to not fool people, but just create a cinematic shot that blended in with the other footage. Next question. Are there any more?
We had several comments.
Okay.
Matt Allard says, nice hat, hair.
It's because I didn't sleep last night. We had to prep all this. It's so exciting, though. Thanks, Matt.
Andrew Hargett was asking if there was a backstory on your cowboy hat.
There is, yeah. So my dad was a professional hockey player. He's in the Hockey Hall of Fame as of last year. I was a professional hockey player for 10 years as well, but I never made the NHL except for some preseason games. But back in 1965, my dad got this hat when he was in Colorado Springs on a tour when he was playing for Czechoslovakia. And he kept the hat in storage for like 50 years and then gave it to me like 5 years ago. And I love it, and I wore it, and I gave it to Samson. And funny enough, if you watch, this is the right way to wear it. Samson actually wore the hat like this. And if you look at this big indentation, if you watch the film again, I didn't catch it. He wore it fucking backwards. So I don't know. But it should be worn like this. But it's my dad's hat, and it's from 65. So yeah, it's old. It's like 65-year-old hat. But it looked good on Samson, and I like it too.
Absolutely.
So that's the story.
And we're gonna address a couple questions.
No, let's do one of the giveaways. We have 3 giveaways.
One more question.
Okay, fine. You're the boss. I just follow your rules.
We had another question.
Anne Marie, she was the priestess. She's off camera here, but she was the priestess in the film.
I'm generally off camera for everything, but
that's okay.
If there's no dialogue, I can handle it.
Oh my God, that's funny.
We had a question from Florin on YouTube asking, I know you talked about the coloring, but I missed if you said what software was used. I know you edited in Premiere, but was your color in Premiere or Resolve?
Oh, no. We graded in DaVinci Resolve. We took the EXRs from the Unreal Engine, and we took the footage from Premiere and exported in, I think, the highest res Cineform files. So 4K Cineform files at like level 5, which are huge, completely massive files. Brought that into DaVinci Resolve. Did a grading pass to match everything to balance it out. And then we created a custom look for the show, which was, again, tinted, towards blue in the highlights and then some earthy tones and some redness. Then we also used Dehancer, which is a plugin. And I've been working with them, and I had the beta on that, which gave us the film grain. And actually, we're going to have a HDR 4K version on Vimeo soon, because the resolution on Vimeo the file is actually 10 times bigger on Vimeo than it is on YouTube, given those limitations. So we'll have an HDR version of that available soon. But we did it all in DaVinci Resolve for the color grade. Dehancer gave us the grain, some of the halation on the edges. It gave us a Kodak 2383 film print export on the way out to give it a little more contrast and a certain look of film emulation that we really were drawn to. And hopefully it came across. Try and watch on different platforms. It does come across differently. YouTube is a little lower res at 4K, but on other devices, it looks great.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break from questions. We're going to announce the seed giveaway winners, and then we'll keep going. We've got a lot of questions. We can keep going.
Whatever you guys need. Yeah,
we'll go as long as you have questions.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'll need a refill, though. Send Kirby for a refill. All right. First giveaway is for the Space Mouse Pro. And that is going to Mike Pan in Burnaby, British Columbia, up in Canada. You are the winner of the Space Mouse Pro. So we will be shipping you that. Congratulations, Mike. Roll it around, push those buttons, dip, dip, doop. So that's our first giveaway. And do we do the other one now or when?
Yeah, we can do the others now.
Should we? All right, let's think. Okay. So the second winner of the 12 terabyte WD Elements Drive. Drum roll. The winner is Sofia Zyla Cochin from Manila. Dell, Matt, I hope you can work that shipping out to get it to them. Don't make us go out of pocket, Matt. Don't do that to me. Manila's a place. They need their hard drives. So congratulations to Sofia Zyla Cochin. You will be receiving somehow the WD 12 terabyte drive. And shall we do the big one too? The last one? All right. And we recorded this. We use the spinning app where all the names, all the thousands of names are put in and we are a winner. So the grand prize winner of the Dell Precision 5750 mobile workstation with the NVIDIA RTX 3000 GPU, a beast of a machine that can tackle anything. I love it. You love it. Who gets it?
It's my choice machine.
It is the Priestess's choice machine. The winner of the grand prize mobile workstation is Blake Maniqui out of Los Angeles. So Blake Maniqui, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize if I did not. But Blake, you are the winner of the Dell 5750 mobile workstation. He's based out of Los Angeles, and I believe he's an assistant editor somewhere or an editor working all the time. So he's probably at work right now. He won't even know that he won, but we'll reach out to him. So those are the giveaways, and I really wanted to thank NVIDIA and Dell for providing those giveaways for this entire project. And hopefully those tools will allow other filmmakers to step out and achieve bigger goals and tackle bigger projects and have the technology, the power, the reliability to function at a higher level. That's why I love mine. I have the 7920 workstation and I have the 7750 mobile workstation, 17.3 inches, 4K beast. I can crush anything. 10K footage, give it to me. 12K, I don't care. I'll cut it. Let's go. So thank you again, NVIDIA and Dell, for providing that, and we'll make sure the other people get it.
Very lucky winners.
Yes, we do.
We will be sending out an email tomorrow as well, just so everyone has the information in case they couldn't make it today. We're going to keep rolling with some questions. We've got a bunch in the queue here. We have a question from BJ.
BJ, who's that?
From where? I butcher his last name.
But what city is he from?
BJ Hedgeholt.
BJ Hedgehog. I'd like to say hi to BJ Hedgehog. What's his question? What's BJ got?
BJ says, was there anything you wanted to accomplish with Unreal on this film that you could not because of limitations, time, budget? Also, great salad.
Sweet. Nice. Thank you, BJ. Yeah, I mean, this is a 10-minute short film. The amount of effort that went into it is the same as on a feature film. I mean, I watched this short film probably, no exaggeration, 100 times over the last 4 days, trying to catch any mistakes, any errors, any glitches, making finer adjustments to make sure it pops. Unreal gave us a platform and an opportunity to create some of those shots that we couldn't get on set. If I had more time, I would have probably tried to create some more shots closer to Samson or closer to some of the spaceships. But again, with our short window and turnaround of a month of post, a month and a half, and then creating the BTS videos as well, those take some time, y'all. Take some time to make those, and I wanted to pass on that information. But no, to be honest, if I had more time, I'd do more shots. But I wanted to be, again, judicious, and I wanted to be show restraint with the shots, to try and slide them in as needed, not to show off. I didn't want to be like, hey, look at this Unreal shot. If they fit the story, then I put it in. If it didn't, then I didn't worry about chasing it. But it did take a lot of time. The real-time playback was great, though, because previously, even Azra, my artist, she had to use cloud servers, all the stuff just to look at a shot, and she could never get real-time playback. On this project with her tower and her A6000 card, this is the first time she had real-time playback, which saved me as a director and her so much time, because she does a shot, she plays it back. I watch, I go, no, we got to slow the camera down. I want the camera to feel heavy, like a real camera. Let's go slower. It's not a video game. I don't want to go fast. So being able to see everything in real time was the huge breaking point in terms of being able to do more shots, get more iterations of shots, and really dial them in. And that's just one, that's one component of virtual productions, because most people think virtual productions is the Mandalorian. You're on a huge stagecraft set with the LED wall and you're standing in front of it and the camera moves and the background moves. That's one component of virtual production. But another one is creating completely Unreal Engine 3D photorealistic shots like we did, and also incorporating 3D Unreal shots into 2D practical footage. All of that falls under the umbrella of virtual production. And that's why it's important for low budget filmmakers to understand that. You don't have to go rent a stage and do all that. You can if you have the budget, but most of us don't. I didn't. We didn't have a budget on this. I paid out of pocket for my artists and they all got paid, but it was, very, very limited. And I wanted to keep it in-house, and I wanted to incorporate and collaborate and try and give some of the duties that I would usually do to other people that I trusted and were respected, and found that they were equal artists. So that was the game plan, DJ.
Awesome. And we have a couple of questions from Nancy and Megan, among others, asking any plans to expand this to a feature length?
Well, that was the original thing. I mean, the original story was, the whole story. And this was basically the last 9 minutes of it, where we were down to one person and his journey across the wasteland and whatnot. So there is a longer story, but I felt for the purposes of Unreal, for the purposes of this project, I just wanted to focus on the end. And again, keep the pacing of a feature film, keep the tone, the sound, the atmosphere of a feature film. One thing as an editor, I always get asked about editors' reels, and like, I want an editor reel, I want to show someone. And I always say, don't cut together fast stuff. Like, I worked on this project, show me one scene. If you have a 30-second scene of people talking, show me that. Show me a minute of one scene continuous, so I get a feel for you as an editor. That's what this short film was trying to do, to show you the pacing and the feel of what I feel filmmaking is cinematically, pacing wise, and rhythm wise. So that was the goal.
Awesome. And then Kirby had shared a question from Instagram asking, where exactly was this shot?
Sure. We shot all over California. This was shot in about 10 locations. We shot in Kelso, out in the Mojave Desert where the lava tubes are, which are practical location. We shot in Amboy, where there's a crater and there's all the volcanic rock that was in the beginning of the film. We shot in Pioneer Town, which is north of Palm Springs and north of Yucca Valley. We shot in Yucca Valley, in Joshua Tree. We shot in Morongo Valley, Desert Hot Springs, and Palm Springs. So all over the Mojave Desert and the Coachella Valley. And what was cool was that I shot in the 2 days. We shot for 2 days. I shot 120 setups, 120 individually framed shots for the film. There's 84 shots in the final film, and we got all of those shots in 2 days at those 8 or 9 locations. And I knew that since we weren't recording sound, I could direct the actors and just yell out loud, which I do a lot. Apparently, Priestess, I yell a lot. I mean well. But I got all the shots that I wanted, and I knew I could form the narrative from that based on the locations that I previously already had visited and knew, and I found really striking. And then I tried to, again, augment and enhance them with Unreal Engine in both in 2D and 3D, and create standalone shots.
Awesome. And we had a great question about the sound from, hopefully I'm pronouncing this correctly, Mikhail Guevara.
Okay.
The sound work was incredible. Did you work with a library or create your own sounds?
I think every independent filmmaker and low budget filmmaker should save as much of their budget on a proper sound mixer and sound designer. That will be the biggest difference of how your project comes across. I've been working with Jamie Scott, who is my sound designer and sound mixer, for over 15 years. He works in Hollywood. He does some of the biggest blockbusters. And I hired him for this because I knew that, not recording sound on the day, that I had to create this sonic world and the sonic soundscape that you heard. And he did an amazing job. I temped everything out with sounds that I liked and set the tone, the mood, the pacing, what should be struck where, what kind of accent sounds we would want to put in there, to make it more mystical and stuff. And then he either used my stuff and sweetened it, or replaced it with his library, or created new sounds for it. And he created that whole mix. I gave him my rough cut, and he had a mix turned around in about 3 days. Then I gave him 3 pages of notes about specifics, about very specific sounds, what to add, what to change, what to slide a little bit later, a little bit earlier. And then 2 days later, he had that done. And we have a 7-1 mix and a 5-1 mix. YouTube and Vimeo are only stereo, so you're only hearing a small component of that. My composer, Red, Blue, Black, Silver, recorded us the music that you heard. That's at 7.1. So for the DCP and for screenings in the future, wherever we want to show it, because since it is 4K and it's beautifully, it looks great on a big screen and it sounds great. I really want to take this around and just at least show it, publicly and have an opportunity to share it, in a bigger venue than YouTube. But this is a great starting point, and make sure you spend a lot of time on sound because it'll set your project apart. You can have shitty video, shitty everything, but if your audio and music and mix is smooth like butter, then literally it just makes it feel so much bigger and cinematic. And that's one of the things in the video cinematic. I didn't get a chance to talk about sound and score, but a huge component of the final output and the final product. So thank you, Jamie.
Absolutely.
And Red, Blue, Black, Silver, and Ryan Amon, who had the cue at the end as we're going through the trees, that beautiful rising score.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for the wonderful questions. These have been awesome, and we'll keep going. We can keep going up until 3:30 because we wanted to give people some time to join.
Sure. If there's questions, I'll gladly answer them.
We've got a lot of questions here. So Mustafa on YouTube asked, in your first 3D scene, when the 3D main character was walking, why did you decide to make that a 3D model instead of using a real scene, then adding the spaceship and alien model? I mean, to be more realistic. I think I get what he's saying.
Yeah. No, well, that was the other thing. So when we started this, there were, 6 or 7 completely Unreal Engine shots. And obviously we're trying for photorealism, given time, given budget, given the experience with the artists and trying to create from scratch. This is all like brand new territory. If we had $1 million, it's going to look a lot more realistic. What we were trying to go for was the intent. We were trying to go for start on an alien head in the foreground, pedestal up on the dolly, rack focus to the character in the background, show the spaceships in his environment. So it's more of a mood setting shot that reveals some of the story, that there are dead aliens everywhere and there's spaceships and there's our character. So would I like that shot to be more photorealistic? Absolutely. If I had more time and any budget to do that even better, sure, it would look better. But I just thought it fit fine in terms of the flow of the story to the narrative of getting him closer to the camera and cutting from his face right to the alien face was part of the pre-planning. But I think it was effective. It accomplished what I wanted for the story, but there's always room for improvement and for on any project. So absolutely, I agree with you.
Absolutely. We had a question from Brian Harnish.
Okay.
Saying your work in Unreal was great. Do you intend to continue using Unreal exclusively on your projects moving forward?
Exclusively, well, it's a tool. It's a storytelling tool. And if you cannot shoot it practically, or you don't have the budget for a location or some kind of effect or some kind of asset, then Unreal is an unbelievable option to create the visual that you need for your story that you don't have. The software is free. I've always said that meeting an Unreal artist, forming that relationship, that's the most important thing. There's more and more of those artists out right now. And what I've learned is my vision, like the shots I saw, I mapped out. I literally drew out on chart maps of how the camera moves, what's in the foreground, what's where. So I gave as much information to the artist so they could create. You can't just tell an Unreal artist, hey, I want a shot in the forest. We're going to start in a fern. The guys in the background, we go up through the trees and we settle and there's a large forest in front of us. You're going to get 100 Unreal artists. They'll give you 100 different takes of that. You saw it exactly how you wanted it in your head, but they made it the way they saw it in their head. And if that doesn't coincide, then you're going to be iterating and iterating and iterating. So my job was to literally ask and say, I want this lens. I want a 35 millimeter lens, stop down to like f8 so everything's in focus, but I don't get refraction. I want the sun coming this direction so we can get some mist and fog and some flares. I want the camera to start low, go up very slowly like a real crane or a real dolly. Everything had to match the gravity and weight of authentic camera weight and dollies and all the tools of the trade that are in reality. So we're taking virtual tools to replicate reality, and there are constraints. And by sticking to those constraints, I feel that we created shots that felt more realistic than just quickly trying to, do a helicopter shot over mountains and play awesome music. Like, come on, that's played out.
We have a question from Maxim Diego. Hi, Maxim.
Maxim, what's up, brother?
He asked, how did production times in Unreal compare with live action acquisition?
Well, live action, you can always just shoot. You can just roll a camera for 45 minutes and get your shots. And oftentimes, as we know in the current world, with digital capture, there's either a couple cameras rolling or the cameras are always rolling. And so you're capturing in between takes and you're resetting and you're moving on and forward. That filmmaking aspect of Unreal Engine requires a lot more planning, a lot more preparation, and a lot of decisions before you actually create. And that's what I was saying with Azra, my Unreal artist. I gave her as much information, as much references. I would make photos, like I would just Photoshop something like, here's the character, here's the cave, here's the wall, here's what I want him to move. He's going to move like this. The camera's going to go behind him or in front of him. I had to give her as much information, and then her job was to match the assets to my vision and then make the finer points. So the process may, if you're in a cave in the dark with some nice lighting and an actor walking away from camera, practically, you could do that, but you got to find the cave, you got to find the actor, you got to light it. So it's, you're talking a whole bunch of people. We did it all in Unreal, and I mapped out the shot in one day. And then 3 days later, that shot was like basically locked. But it took an enormous amount of work for her because she was doing everything from scratch. She wasn't building, I need a cave tunnel, and then I'm just going to put a guy in there and walk him through. The light has to be a certain place. When he's walking through the tunnel, there's a shaft of light that goes across his back, which was just amazing. I saw that. I'm like, Azra, that's sick. Because it just felt real. Like he felt like he was walking through a shaft of light. That's like Raiders of the Lost Ark when he's in the cave and there's a shaft of light. You put your hand in it and the arrows come out. So I just was trying to capture that feel, that aesthetic. And I think you can create anything in Unreal. You just have to choose what's the best solution for that particular shot. So with Unreal, it's more specific, practically shooting. You have more time and options, but you need more people, you need locations, you need lighting, you need all that. So you can create, I think, more in Unreal quicker and closer to the finish line.
We have a couple additional questions from Melissa Coulier. Hi.
Hi, Melissa Momo.
When mixing real and Unreal, what did your pre-production look like? Do you know what the entire film looks like before you shot on location?
Yeah, I shot those plates, basically plates, because I knew that I would be adding like spaceships. And there's a shot where there's this chloride river, which is in Amboy, the long green river. And then I have the spaceship up top. And then again, if you watch on YouTube, you may not have noticed, but there were like several dead aliens in the river floating underwater that were, dead. And so when I framed that shot on the day, there was no spaceship, there was no alien, there was just a river. So I knew that that shot caught my eye. I had been in that location before. So I said, if I put the camera here, I know later in some way or fashion, I can put a spaceship up there, I can put dead aliens in the water and sell it as a shot. The other thing was, I'm hoping with the perspective, the ship looks really big. The aliens are really small. So you think that, I'm up maybe 50 feet on a cliff looking down, but actually from that camera angle with that lens, I was only about 2 feet above the water. So it's like a forced perspective kind of illusion to make it look like I'm up higher because the aliens are small and the spaceship is big, but it's far away. So it feels even bigger. But graphically, that was just a shot that I saw, that I captured, that I knew I would add stuff to later. And that's how I approached all the shots that we did, the 2D with Unreal Engine assets dropped into it. Thank you, Momo.
And she had one follow-up question as well. When shooting in real time, you have objects for actors to look at. When it's Unreal, what are your challenges directing?
In Unreal, if I'm doing the shot in Unreal, the challenge of directing is the relationship with the Unreal artist, which is, again, coming back to the communication level. As a director and as an editor, I've been editing in Hollywood for 20 years. My job is to communicate with the director, get their intention, get their references, try and deliver their vision. When I'm talking to my Unreal artist, my objective is to explain as clearly as I can and in as much detail how I want it to look, give references, and then let the artist do their work. Just step back and say, give her. And so if they do that and you have open communication and you have similar tastes and you've shown through lookbooks or reference photos or films, then you're getting closer to the finish line, even on the first iteration. On our Unreal shots, there were never any shot that took more than 3 tries to get pretty much exactly how I wanted. And even for Azra, when it started, it was a new challenge for her. So as the shots progressed, at the end of the shoot, when she tackled the forced one, she had learned so much in 3 months in reality by doing the other shots that I saved that last shot, the big one, for the end, because it's 37-second shot, completely Unreal 4K monster. So by then she had learned new skills and new tricks and hacks to apply it to that shot. So we tried to start with the easier shots and then progressively get harder, but also have different kinds of shots. In this film, I had like point of view shots in Unreal. I had following shots. I had the crane shot. I had a dolly shot. I had close-ups of the cave and flowers inserts. So I tried to make sure all the Unreal shots were a different kind of shot. So it wasn't just, oh, look, there's a guy walking here. Oh, look, whatever. No, they're 5 completely different physical camera moves that belong in cinematography that you see in every Hollywood blockbuster. So that was the goal. God, I'm
That's
talking
great.
a lot.
Carl McKay
I'm losing
said
my
hi.
voice. Carl, cheers, my friend.
I think he logged off. Maybe we still got him there. We had another great question from Christine on YouTube, Christine Marsh. How did the filmmaking process change from the traditional way of filmmaking from a director and producer's perspective in terms of budget, schedule, location scouting, pre-production, production, and post?
Sure. Well, since I did all of those, then on this one, again, to be clear, this is a low budget film, meaning I own the camera. I was the cameraman. I was the director. I asked my wife and my friend to be the actors in it. I went to locations that we didn't have to pay for because I knew and had visited them. So I went and got all that. We shot over 2 days in all the locations. And then I had I think I finished with 2.5 hours of raw footage. The final film is 10 minutes long. So I have all the footage. Then I decided with the VFX, I can't personally create spaceships and aliens. So I hired Azra to employ her skill set with Unreal, and Unreal's free. She has a seat. She has a Unreal at home. She's doing another full-time job, so she's chipping away. She's creating the shots that I'm going to implement and put into my film. I reached out to Jamie Scott, my sound designer. I hired him because I knew I had to lock him down. He was working on 7 other feature films for him to do the sound mix, which I knew would hold everything together, the glue to make it cinematic and make it just immersive. And if you didn't get a chance to listen on headphones or really good speakers, you should try that. It's sick. And that's only in stereo. So the other version coming out will be even swirlier. But production wise, I just tried to limit my budget to hiring artists that I knew, that I trusted, that I could pay. I got friend rates because I was, coming out of my pocket. So they liked the project. They want to be involved. So they cut me a break. But so the budget wasn't large at all, but the point was trying to make something that felt bigger and more complete and cinematic was the goal. So all those components don't change in terms of the schedule, the budget, all that stuff. It's literally reaching out. I had reached out to several other people for some of the positions, but they were either not available or had to move on to something else. So at the end of the day, though, the people that I did have on board were the perfect choice. And like, I literally, it wouldn't be the same film if one of those roles were taken by someone else, that, it wouldn't have been as successful for me.
In that vein, we had an actually earlier question asking about how you selected Azra as your Unreal artist.
Sure. The Unreal Fellowship has a course where they teach at the highest level at Epic Games how to use Unreal, how it implements as a game engine, but now also a motion picture device component, technology that you can use several different ways in virtual production. So I had reached out to a friend of mine, and he had taken the same fellowship with Azra, and he had moved on to another job, so he was unavailable. He recommended Azra and said she was amazing in the fellowship. You should reach out to her. So I reached out to Azra. I pitched her about the project. I showed her a rough cut with none of the effects in it, told her my intent, said, here's how many shots I'm looking for. I had to map everything out and show her, like, this shot needs to be like this. This needs to be like this. Showed her the schedule. So going back to schedule and budget, I said, here's what I could pay you. Here's what I can give you, swap some stuff out. And then she said, I'm on board. And so it was a matter of being it handed off by a trusted person. And 99% of the business, especially in Hollywood, is word of mouth and reputation. If you do good work, you're a good person, you're not an asshole, people like to be around you, you're going to get work, you're going to get repeat work, and you're going to have a good name in the industry. If you go the other way, you try and screw someone out of something, or you do subpar work, or you're not a nice person, then you might get one job, but those people will remember that and they won't come around again. So I always try and ask my friends and my community that I'm growing now with Unreal in this new vein to get more artists, because if I have my next project, I want to do another Unreal Engine film with Azra that's on a much bigger scale, and we can go on set, and we can have motion capture suits. So we don't have to have animated actors. We can have the actor wear the suit, map that onto their 3D character, so it's really them moving. So that's our next step, when we're in the process of planning that as we speak.
We had a comment from Alley Cat Productions saying, "I'm filming American Classic Truck in London, UK. I think I can use Unreal to transport to the desert?" Question mark.
Man, there's lots of ways you can transport to the desert. You can go on the high seas, man. That's a Spider. That's for you, Spider, wherever you are. Yeah, no, you can, with proper planning. And like now, like if you go on an Unreal Engine market, you can buy deserts that are pre-built, and you just have to fly your camera through there, so you can add something into it. So there's many ways to approach it, and I just think it's something that other filmmakers, both independent, low budget, should look into to try to make their projects, look and feel bigger than they actually are. We're not limited by budget. It's more about the computing power and the time that it takes. So have a strong, workstation, and have a clear vision, and have an artist that you can communicate with, and then you can pretty much do anything.
Awesome. We had a question from Ellery Yu. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, on YouTube. She asks, from a business perspective, what are you looking to achieve from making this film?
The experience of utilizing Unreal Engine in a project that I have complete creative control over, which is always a challenge. If you're hired by someone else, there's always a boss above you. So I wanted to, I've directed a lot of things, and on a lot of short form. I'm directing a documentary as we speak that I have to finish, but this opportunity came up, and I wanted to direct the short film and make it as not only cinematic, but again, the pacing of a feature film, to just make sure I was in control of my faculties, make sure I knew what I was doing and felt good about the result, and utilize new technologies to see if I can enhance the story and then make a bigger jump and be able to pitch a bigger project. So it's a proof of concept that a low budget, no budget short film can give a desired effect that I really enjoyed. And I hope it resonated with other people, and we'll find out. I mean, it went live half an hour ago, so hopefully it doesn't get torn apart, but even if it does, I don't care, because I learned the things that I needed to take away from it. And I'm not afraid of like hanging my nuts out there and sharing it with the world, and hopefully getting a good response. So many people sit at home and either talk about making a project or do film it and never show it. So I'm not afraid. I'm a filmmaker. You have to be bold. You have to be out there. You have to get your face, your name, your product in front of people. And that's when good things happen. So we'll see, but I'm hoping for good things.
Awesome. Christine said, thank you for your great answer earlier. Also, are you planning to take this to any film festivals?
I don't know if you can. I don't know. Whatever. I'd rather show it for free. Like I'll take it to Sundance. We'll show it at Sundance. But no, I just think it's first it was for me, completely selfish project in terms of seeing if I could do it. Then it was sharing it with all of you for free to get it out in the world. And then if I want to submit it, sure. But I'm not looking for awards. I'm just looking for the fact I can do it, and then do it again, and do it better, and do it bigger. So it was more for me, but I'll gladly show it anywhere. So anyone who wants to see it, but you do have to see it on a big screen. It looks sick on a huge screen with the sound proper. Wow. It's a completely different experience. So there's that.
Awesome. We had another question from Mustafa. He asked, in your editing phase, did you know the exact editing style you wanted from the beginning, or did you try more than one editing style?
No, I knew that, speaking to what I did before, I knew I wanted the pacing to be measured and propulsive, but not rushed. And I wanted to, obviously there's no dialogue except for Samson's voiceover that he wrote. He wrote like 20 paragraphs, and I edited it down to the nuggets that I wanted. I just let him loose. I said, write as much as you want to capture the mindset of the guy, of the actor or the character, and then I cut it down. But the editing was always supposed to be like a feature film. Like I said, like the last 9 minutes of a feature film where we come to this conclusion. And I knew that since we didn't have dialogue, it's basically a silent film, that every act that was happening had to give some kind of information. Him walking with the spaceships in the background tells you one thing. All right, something's happened here. Aliens attacked, they're dead. Him opening a book, the first time he doesn't show you what's in it. So you're like, what's in the book? Then he does open it. You see a flower and you see a mountain with a big X. Not very subtle, but giving the viewer hopefully information like, all right, he's on a journey, he's going somewhere, at least he has a plan. And then when he interacts with the priestess in the cave, he reveals that he's been carrying a flower, he has the sand, the dirt. They, through only visual communication, act out pantomime, basically put it there. And the audience was hopefully just along for the ride. And I didn't want to do dialogue like, I'm here, here's the flower, what do you want me to do with it? I tried to be a little more elegant and let the sound design and the music carry that over. So the editing style was always meant to be like that. I edited the film because I had been with the footage for so long. I think I locked the cut in like 2 days. I had made a slightly longer version, cut some stuff out, got some better reactions, swapped out a couple shots, but in 2 or 3 days, I had the edit that I wanted. And then at that point, I think I changed a couple frames here and there in terms of edit point, but it was locked at 9 minutes, pretty much from the start.
Awesome. And Kirby had shared another question
Sure.
that I think came from Twitter or Instagram. Do you try to match lens rendering and curvature like with your Unreal?
Oh, absolutely. That's in part 5 of the BTS that was just launched yesterday. I get into that. There's a component in Unreal called Filmback, and it's the virtual camera controls that includes aperture, what kind of lens it is, be it a prime or a zoom. It has the number of blades in the lens. You can choose the size of the sensor that approximates the real camera. So if you want a sensor that's a 70 millimeter IMAX or 35 Super 35 or an Arri Alexa, you can match a sensor. So then the lens and the curvature, the field of view, the depth of field, all is replicated within Unreal. So if you shot practically on an Arri with a 35 millimeter lens, you can tell Unreal, I want all my shots for this. I want this shot to be with an Arri sensor at the 35 millimeter lens at what zoom, what aperture, whatever, and it will match in the computer virtually what happens in reality, which is critical because you can't just go into Unreal and say, I want a shot. It's going to be this wide. It's going to be zoomed in a bit. There's so many cinematical components that you're throwing out the window if you want it to match. And the goal is to make it match, ideally, perfectly. So yes, inside Unreal, look under options for Filmback, and then you can set all the settings to match the camera that you want, even if you don't own it. If you want to shoot on a 70 millimeter, a 70 IMAX with a 100 millimeter lens, you can put it in there and it will replicate that actual shot. So it's very powerful, very flexible. I'm losing my voice. I'm talking so much.
Awesome. We had a couple people asking if the giveaway winners had been announced. I think they missed the beginning part.
Earlier, yeah, I'll read it off again.
If we can read it off
Sure.
one more time. And then if anyone has any straggler questions, get them in now.
Yeah. So the winner of the Space Mouse Pro, which we will be emailing shortly, is Mike Pan in Burnaby, British Columbia. What a hoser. The winner of the 12 terabyte WD Elements drive is Sophia Zyla Cochin out of Manila. And the grand prize winner of the Dell 5750 mobile workstation with the NVIDIA RTX 3000 GPU is Blake Maniquis from Los Angeles. I hope I pronounced those names correctly. If I did not, my name is Vashi Nedemansky, and I've heard so many horrible versions of that. So I apologize, but we'll get it right, and we'll make sure that stuff gets shipped out to you, gets in your hands, and you get to put it to work.
Thank you guys for being here and for so many awesome questions. We had a couple last questions here. Christine asked, what do you do differently now that you've gone through this for the first time?
Now I can plan my shoots or plan my shots for the next narrative thing that I work on. So if I know the limitations or the unlimited options that I have, I don't even have to shoot certain shots because I know I can buy a character for $500, put it in an environment that's built from scratch, let it the way I want, zoom in, zoom out as much as I want, and set it up properly. So I'm learning that I only have to shoot, like I could shoot all just interiors. If I'm in a house, I can shoot all the interiors, shoot all the exteriors using Unreal. If I want to prepare to go on a stagecraft set or use LED backdrops, then I know now I can build the Unreal environment that goes on the LED screens, put my actors on that stage. When the camera moves, I get the parallax. So the 3D backdrop is moving around with them, and I can just focus on the performance of the actors, and they're seeing the environment around them as well. So they're not on a green screen stage looking at fake dragons. They're in an environment, interacting, being ambiently lit by the LED walls that I've already created, and I'm running the camera and getting the shots I want. So it's just a natural progression. And I had to walk before I could run, and I had to do simple shots and try and show restraint and blend them into the film that I already had before I could go to the next step of taking on bigger challenges. But now my feet are wet and I feel great. I'm really proud of the film. And so I'm just looking for the next challenge.
Okay, we're going to do one or two more questions
Okay.
here, and then we'll wrap up. We had an earlier question from Frank Muniz. Did you manipulate any natural locales with Unreal?
No, we added to the practical footage. We never.
Some natural locales were created like for the tree shot, right? Or
I mean, the last shot, the 37-second shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all crafted from scratch. So
Yeah.
there was like, obviously it was a birch forest, but what we were trying to do was replicate the surrounding Rocky Mountain environment and then populate it with trees and put that all everywhere and have our character walk through. The fern that was in the cave that we focus on that's growing is the same fern that we used outside next to the tree, just to have some kind of logical, not even a cut point, but just like, oh, that's a fern, that's a fern. It's the start of the shot. So that entire forest was built from scratch. And then our 3D character was inserted into it, walking through in the background. And again, on a smaller screen, you may not even see him, but it's not even important, because the important thing is that the world was repopulated. It was coming back to life. The mission was accomplished. And that whole forest was built from scratch to just exemplify what had happened in the story without being too over the top. Like, it felt real and practical. And I think the camera move was really nice. And a 37-second shot is a long shot in Unreal.
Definitely. All right, we'll take one more question after Carlos, if anybody has anything else. Carlos had a question asking, would you make a short entirely in Unreal?
Oh, absolutely. I have a friend of mine, Haas, who is an unbelievable Unreal director and artist. He's finishing his animated Unreal feature film as we speak, and he's doing everything basically himself, creating the worlds, running the camera, creating the animation, the characters. He has a lot more experience, and he's on the forefront of doing this. He has shows on both Netflix and I think Amazon Prime that he's already embraced Unreal Engine in that way. For me, I want to use it in the live action narrative world. So short films have already been done completely in Unreal in both animated form and live action. Although live action, I've seen maybe like a 1-minute short. I mean, it would take a lot of effort. And again, if your goal is complete photorealism, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of energy and some excellent artists to make it completely plausible and to be completely like to sell that. That's hard. I think, and I believe I proved it with this short film, is you can integrate shots as needed to help tell the story that you couldn't due to budget or constraint or time or access to location or access to the actor, because all those components are in Unreal. They're waiting for you to tell them what to do. And as long as you can envision it, as long as you know what the shot is, then you can express it and create it in Unreal. So yes, to answer your question the long way around, you can make an entire short film in Unreal. You can make an entire feature film in Unreal. It's just a matter of time, vision, budget, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Well, I think we're wrapping up here. We got pretty much everybody's questions in, I hope. And thank you to Matt, Andrew, and Rick for partnering with us on this amazing project.
Yes,
really
thank you so
appreciate
much,
you.
gentlemen, for giving us the opportunity and to this platform to tell our story, to share the narrative, to share the cool parts of it, and then the BTS. You know, like if you guys go watch on vashivisuals.com, we have an entire page that's going to have not only the film but all 5 BTS of how we did the different components and how we approached it. It's worth if you wanted to learn more about using Unreal in your own projects. So thanks to Dell and NVIDIA and all the team members and everyone that chipped in to make this day possible. And it launched. It's live, right? It's live.
It's live.
Okay, so it's live. I can go get a drink
now.
So everyone have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for the really nice questions. And again, congratulations to the winners. Put that stuff to good use.
And we'll be sending an email out with those details on the winners in the next day as well. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Take
Dell
care.
NVIDIA, and thank you, everyone, for your awesome questions.
Spread the seed. God, that's cheesy. Kill this thing. Make it stop before I tell another dad joke.